Bondi Beach is sold to the world as surf, sun and crowded sand, but beneath that famous strip is a deep Aboriginal coastal record most visitors never notice. By the end, you'll hear why archaeologists keep returning to this place and why some of its most important traces are left unsigned on purpose. Start above the beach, on the clipped green edge of the headland. Golf shoes cross the grass, the sea slams below, salt hangs in the air, sharp on the tongue. To most people, it feels like ordinary public land beside a postcard view, but near these paths in flat sandstone are marks made long before cameras, surf clubs or holiday crowds. One panel includes a figure so unsettling that it changes the mood of the whole beach. An 8-metre shark, cut into stone, moving toward a swimming human. Subscribe now, because that carving is only the first thing hiding in plain sight. Look closer at that shark, and the first surprise is how deliberate it is. The lines were made by patient hands, with small blows into the sandstone, then grooves worked along the surface until the shape held. This was no quick mark left beside the sea. The rock is hard under the fingers, grainy, pale, and exposed to wind that carries salt straight off the water. Every fin, every curve had to be earned. Beside it, the human figure seems to move across the stone at an angle, as if caught in one frozen moment. Researchers have treated the scene with caution, but the possibility remains powerful. A beach danger remembered in stone, long before warning signs or patrol towers. And then comes the harder question. How old is a memory when the rock itself keeps wearing away? That question is where the certainty starts to thin out. On this headland, age is written through damage as much as design. The deepest and most worn part of the engraving panel has been estimated at up to 2,000 years old. But sandstone is a difficult witness. It flakes, it softens. It takes the salt wind, the hard rain, the heat, and the slow rub of people passing nearby. Archaeologists have to read the surface carefully. The depth of the grooves, the weathering, the position of the figures, and the way the rock has changed around them. It is patient work, with no clean date stamped into the stone. While the cliff kept that question open, the beach below was holding another kind of evidence entirely. In 1899, a storm tore into the dunes, and thousands of tiny tools came spilling out. When that storm opened the dunes, it did something no museum case could do. It showed that the beach had once been a working place, with skill scattered through the sand in thousands of small pieces. Many of those pieces were finely shaped blades, most under 30 millimeters long. Later, they became known as Bondi points, named after the shore that gave them back. Hold that size in your mind, smaller than a finger joint, sharp enough to matter. Their backed edges suggest careful design, likely for hafting onto hunting or fishing gear. You can almost hear the old rhythm around the coast. Stone tapped, flake turned, tool checked against the thumb. But the tools carried another clue. Some stone did not belong naturally to Bondi's immediate rocks, which means this famous beach was connected to paths reaching beyond the bay. That clue matters, because it pulls Bondi out of the idea of a single, isolated beach. The stone pieces point to movement, exchange, and knowledge of a wider coast, and when heritage records widen the frame, the pattern becomes harder to ignore. The Waverley area, which includes Bondi, holds 11 registered Aboriginal archaeological sites. That number is not a treasure map. It is a warning that the famous shoreline is only one visible edge of a much larger cultural landscape. Some places are rock surfaces, some are sheltered spaces in the coastal sandstone. Some are traces so quiet that a walker could pass them with wet feet, sunscreen on their hands, and never know what they were near. Because the next kind of evidence does not look dramatic at first. It can look like broken shell until you realize it is a record of meals, seasons, and return. Broken shells are where the story becomes strangely human. A shell midden is built from repeated visits, repeated meals, repeated knowledge of when the coast would give food. Around Bondi and the wider Waverley cliffs, these deposits include lobster, abalone, crab, and oyster. Think of the sound of shells cracking on stone, the briny smell of wet rock pools, the scrape of feet on sandstone ledges at low tide. To an untrained eye, it might look like scattered sea waste. In archaeology, it is context. It shows what people gathered, where they returned, and how closely life followed the water. This is where care matters. Once a midden is kicked apart, pocketed, or photographed with its exact spot online, part of the record is gone. But the coast also carries meaning in its names, and even Bondi's name is not as simple as most signs make it seem. Even the word Bondi carries that older coast inside it. It is often said to come from an Aboriginal word, linked to water breaking over rocks, the sound that still rolls through the headlands when the surf hits hard. But old translations are slippery. Some records give different meanings, and historians treat them with care, because many were written down through colonial ears, far from the full setting of the language. For the coastal Aboriginal clans connected with this part of Sydney, the sea was a living system of food, travel, story, and lore. The whale, the shark, the turtle, the eel, these were never just shapes on stone. When a visitor sees only a beach name on a towel or a bus stop, something has already been flattened. That is why some of the most important places near Bondi are protected in the strangest way possible, by leaving them unmarked. Leaving a place unmarked sounds careless until you understand the risk. At North Bondi, some engravings remain unfenced and unsigned by deliberate policy, because attention can become damage very quickly. A sign can protect. It can also advertise. One shared pin, one careless rubbing, one person tracing a groove with a key or a stone, and a mark that survived salt air for generations can be harmed in seconds. So the visitor faces a strange silence. No grand plaque, no neat arrow, just wind, traffic from the road behind, the rough breath of the sea, and sandstone underfoot. This is the ethical knot at Bondi Beach, and the hidden, deep-time coastal landscape fenced off and walked past beneath the world's most photographed sand. How do you teach respect without handing out a target? And that problem gets even harder when preservation itself has sometimes changed the evidence. That is the uncomfortable part of caring for old stone. Sometimes the hands trying to save a carving can leave their own marks on it. Along this coast, some engraving lines were reworked in the 20th century when people believed they were helping the figures survive. The intention may have been protection. The result is more complicated. A refreshed groove can make a shape easier to see while also blurring the older hand beneath it. Add weather, salt, shoes, rainwater, and time, and the record becomes layered. Original cut, later touch, natural wear, modern pressure, all of it sits on the same pale sandstone above Bondi's surf. So the question is no longer just, what is hidden here? It becomes, how much can a place endure while millions keep moving across it without knowing what they are passing? So the final reveal is quieter than people expect. Bondi does not need a buried city or a single locked room to become extraordinary. Its record is spread across stone, sand, shell, name, and silence. The shark and swimmer hold one kind of memory. The tiny-backed tools hold another. The middens hold the taste of the coast, the work of hands, the return to the same ledges when the tide was right, and the unsigned places matter too. their blankness is part of the protection. A person may stand near them, hear the buses, smell the sunscreen, feel the grit under a wet foot, and never realize the past is still close enough to touch. Next time Bondi appears in a bright photograph, look past the crowd for a moment. Imagine the pale rock beneath the glare, keeping its lines. If this changed how you see the beach, subscribe for more hidden Australian history told with care.